Thanks for joining us today. It is Wednesday, and we are going to find out all the latest news, including some pretty cool news from the Elko Senior Center today. We always have cool news from the Senior Center, Matt, but it's especially exciting today. Matt McCarty is the director of our Elko Senior Center, and you are serving up hundreds of meals and keeping people literally cool during this hot summer season.
We try to, yes, absolutely. Unfortunately, we did have a little bit of a snafu with our air conditioning earlier this week. It should be better today. It is better today. But yeah, we every now and then, despite our best efforts, sometimes mechanical equipment fails, and there's not a whole lot we can do with that. But we've got amazing people in town, amazing businesses that fix us up and that work together. You know, it's I'm going to just kind of throw out a quick shout out. Normally, our HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning contractor is Steve Stanfill with Wolf Mechanical, and he has recently he's unavailable for a number of weeks. We're gonna put it that way. Everything's okay, but yeah, he just isn't able to be there, and so we called a number of different companies in town, and all of them understood the situation, and they were all trying to help the best they could. And Snyder Mechanical kind of just showed up, and we weren't expecting them until Friday, and they came in. They were able to get it up and running, and as it happens, the gentleman that worked on it had worked with Steve in the past, and so instead of this bickering and this clash that sometimes we see with, especially at the national level with companies and whatnot, it's great to see local companies and businesses cooperating, and whether it may not be direct cooperation, but it at least is not this pettiness of, oh, well, if you've chosen them, then we're not going to help you. And so to come together and help the seniors is great. It's amazing. The last time our system failed, and it was earlier this year, and it was a very quick, easy fix. Steve was able to fix it that same day, but it got so hot in the dining room, one of our members had to leave because it literally was setting her pacemaker off. That's how hot it had gotten. And I mean, we're not talking 100 plus degrees, but slight temperature changes affect seniors, just like children, so much more. We lose our ability to be able to regulate temperature and be able to handle those temperature changes, of course, when we're very young, but also as we get older. And so again, it's amazing, and I love, that's just one more reason I love living in the community that we live in.
Oh, Matt, thanks. I had no idea that happened. And here you have described, we had this sweltering senior center, but fortunately, as you said, people put aside any business interest they have and just come together to fix the thing. And they did. And that's great news.
It is great news. And our people appreciate it. Our members appreciate it. Our staff appreciates it. So yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Well, and that does bring us to, I think we could kind of start with a big announcement, because we do have a beautiful senior center that is a few decades old and was fantastic when it was planned for growth. And now you are bursting at the seams at the Elko Senior Center, and you've had a goal in mind. And so tell us about this recent news.
Yes. So we are bursting at the seams on certain days. Our parking lot is overflowing. In fact, anybody that's been to the senior center in the past 6 weeks, 2 months or so, may notice that the curbs outside of the entrance to our parking lot are now red. City of Elko, again, another amazing organization that is so generous to our seniors, came out and painted the curbs red because people were parking on the streets, and it was impacting the ability to be able to see to safely exit out of the senior center. And that parking on the street was identified that this is going to pose a problem as we continue to move forward. We can seat 126 people in the dining room, and we are averaging well over 100 a day. On most Wednesdays, we are exceeding 126 people. So our dining room is full, but our parking lot is even more full because we just don't have 126 parking spaces. And folks carpool, and we have people that use Get My Ride, again, a great partnership, but there's still just not enough parking. And so Over the past 3 years, the board, staff has been talking to the board about what the needs are and where we're looking further down the road, 5, 10, even 20 years down the road of what the big plan is and the goals. And the board has identified and approved being able to purchase land to build another center, a new center that would replace our existing center down the road. And so I'm very excited to announce that we made an offer on a piece of land that the Elko Institute of Academic Achievement, the charter school, owns currently. And it's on the corner of College and Ruby Vista. It's across the street from the Peace Park, from College Avenue. It's across Ruby Vista from sorry about that, from CADV and Harbor House. And then it's kitty corner from the state offices that are right there. Great location, 9 acres, which is 2.5, 3 times what we have now. And they gave a counter offer that our board accepted just Monday, so 2 days ago. I'm so excited about this. And the charter school is very generous. We, as the senior center, aren't cash flush. We just, as many nonprofits are and understand, we don't carry cash, because if we have money, it should be going back into our program, and we should be providing the services that we offer. So we don't keep cash. Well, that lot is about $1 million. We need to now raise $1 million. And the charter school was so generous to give us a year escrow to be able to raise this money. So now, community, Elko, Spring Creek, surrounding areas, we need to raise $1 million for the senior center. This is not to build a new building tomorrow. This is going to be probably a 10-year plan to be able to get a new center, because it takes time to raise the kind of money that we need to build a new center. What we're looking at now is an investment to the future. And for the first time in at least 20 years, 25 years, we would have a sizable asset that belongs to the senior center. Many people know that the building is owned by the county, and they allow us to use that building. The land is owned by the city. We just signed a check on Monday for the annual lease of $1. And so we've leased that land, and they allow us to be there. So we don't have assets. This land purchase would be the first time we've had an asset in, as I said, almost a quarter century. And we are looking for help for that. We need help from the community. As I said, we don't have cash. We can't borrow the money because, well, I shouldn't say we can't. We could borrow the money, but responsibly, that would not be the right thing to do, because we don't have income coming in to be able to pay a mortgage and to be able to pay the interest. That's not how we operate. The money that comes in almost immediately goes back out in the form generally of meals. And so we depend on donations to do the other things. The investment income that we have is because of generous gifts in the past and wise fiduciary responsibilities from previous boards. They've done a good job of investing that as wisely as possible. And now we need that again. $950,000, $1 million, just to make it easy. $1 million is what we're looking for. And when we say that, people are like, oh my gosh, you can't raise $1 million. That's a lot of money. And it is a lot of money. There's 30,000 people here in the Elko Spring Creek area. If every one of those people gave $10, that's $300,000. We're there, a third of the way there. $20 each gets us more than halfway there. So it's very doable if, as a community, we pull together. All of us are either old or will one day be old. That's the hope. That's the goal. And so all of us benefit from having a healthy senior population. And a little bit partially, I think the senior center does a good job of keeping or of helping our seniors to be healthy. So I just rambled a whole bunch, Lori, and I didn't give you a chance to ask any questions or talk about it at all, but that's the start of where we are right now.
Matt McCarty is director of our Elko Senior Center, and that was a fantastic start to this fundraising goal. Again, an ambitious $1 million for the plot of land, about 9 acres, Ruby Vista Drive and College Avenue there. And it is part of this, as he said, a 10-year strategic plan and investment. You do have a senior center foundation. So people, when they make contributions, there's that consideration, right, Matt?
There is. And so it's not separate from the current senior center. There's not two different organizations or entities, but we do have endowments, and in fact, we have a fairly healthy endowment for capital improvements. That's intended for emergency purchases. If a windstorm comes through and blows off half of the roof, we need to be able to repair that. We can't shut down the center, and so that endowment is set aside for those type of emergency purposes. So we do have some money that we may be able to utilize to get us across that finish line. But that's what we're looking for. And in fact, that may be something that we may be able to use as almost a match. If we can get $3 for every $3, maybe we match $1 or something similar. That may be a possibility, and I'm not speaking on behalf of the board or for the board, but that could be something that's happened. Right now, we were just trying to get the approval to be able to go out and purchase the land. There is an earnest money component to this, and for those not familiar with purchasing real estate or land, earnest money is money that basically says, yes, we're serious about this, and we're going to give some money and set it aside. And if we back out of the contract, we lose that earnest money. And so the first $100,000 that's raised is something that we're looking at going towards that earnest money. But again, that could be something that maybe on this part, maybe it's a 1-to-1 match. Or maybe the board even approves and says, okay, you know what, $50,000, which is what I had asked for originally on let's do this investment. Maybe $50,000, we say, yep, the first $50,000 out the door is all us. Because we want our donors to know that they're not just giving away their money. But the reality is, if we can't get this done in a year, we lose whatever earnest money that we have already paid. And so it's very important that we are wise and responsible with our money and with the community's money. And so we don't want to get halfway there and then have to give up and lose money. We really want to be able to cross the finish line, arms raised high, and celebrating with everyone as we cross that threshold.
So a couple things to keep in mind, listeners, about that particular parcel, too, is that this is an infill piece. So we're not looking at building a new facility on the outskirts of town or someplace where it's hard to get to or not as visible. This is surrounded by neighborhoods. I think Matt did a great job describing the vicinity, near the Peace Park, for example, and some other services just up the street from Great Basin College. Again, 9 acres gives you plenty of room for parking and the ancillary facilities that you need for the senior center. And as you said, too, this is a 10-year plan. You'll still, need to come up with the building, but it compensates for what's happening at the current Elko Senior Center. You're not going to get smaller. The population is growing. Hopefully we're healthier, Matt, and that's what we want to encourage. And so memorial gifts, estate planning, and charitable contributions can all go toward this $1 million to acquire the property, which then, again, the senior center and the foundation and this private fundraising arm of the senior center can use to, build on that, literally, to build a building in the future. So how exciting.
It is very exciting, and I am... And our staff is just ecstatic about this. The board being able to vote and approve this is something that we're just, again, we appreciate the support that they've given us, and we can go from there. We've had a number of folks that have said, well, we like where we are and we don't want to lose where we are, and I agree 100%. And in fact, I got a little bit choked up during the board meeting because I said this, and in the mornings, oftentimes I'm going in at 6:45, 7 o'clock, and as the sun is rising, we see that beautiful garrison flag, the big flag flying over Elko, and the sunrise is behind it, and the wind just catches that breeze. It is an amazingly beautiful sight. From our patio, we look out and we see the city, and we can see off into the distance the rubies. It is a gorgeous sight. where we're going is also going to be a gorgeous site, and it's less than a mile as the crow flies. Even driving it, I think it's just under a mile. So to your point, we are inside still the city limits, and we are still easily and centrally located. This is going to be a great opportunity for us.
I think about Chuck Knight anytime we talk about this project, and what would he think? Well, I think he would be awfully proud to know that the senior center has grown so much and needs a new location, because, heaven knows how hard that group worked. And I say that group because I'm not sure who's left from that group, Matt, but they had the vision.
They did have the vision.
To do it the first time.
And it took them 10 plus years, 20 years, I think to get
totally.
from the old building, which was the new site, I think, of the next fire station.
Yeah.
Exactly. To get from there to the current building took, from my understanding, 20 years, 10 plus easily.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it was close to 20 years. And that is a long-term prospect. And people have said, some of our members have said, well, I'll be dead before we see this. And so what's in it for me?
That's why we plant trees.
And that is why we plant trees. And what's in it for you is what you have gotten from the center, pay it forward. And so we've talked a little bit about that, and knowing that you're paving the road for the next generation, for your children or your grandchildren, because the hope is that we designed this building, and this building is built with expansion in mind. My goal and my vision is 100 years from now, that location will still be there. We'll still be able to utilize that building because we'll design it and we'll place it within the lot smartly, so that every time we need to expand, it's possible to do. That we make the parking lot in such a manner that we can continue to bring in additional parking. So that's really what we're looking at, and we we'll hopefully get to that point, and we go from there.
Thanks, Matt. Again, the goal is to raise $1 million. We've got a year, so we've set the clock, literally, and we'll check in on this monthly, if not more often, certainly when those contributions come in. But again, just thinking of people like Chuck Knight and the others who helped to create and build and use, that was a new building to them. They'd always had a building that had a previous purpose. The building that they were in when I first came to Elko was the old Howard's on the hill. It was literally the old restaurant.
Yes.
And it was falling apart then, and it wasn't purpose built. And this senior center is. And again, in 10 more years, you will definitely see the impact and say, wow, I'm glad we were planning 10 years ago for a new senior center.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we are. And now we'll shift gears a little bit, talking with Matt McCarty, our senior center director, and current operations, because people may get confused and say, but aren't we having a hard time paying for food right now, right? Food costs are going up, Matt.
Yes, food costs are going up. And that is something that's normal. And it's something that we face every year. What's different this year over the past 4-5 years is that in the past 5 years, as we have served more meals, the state has been able to backfill, so to speak, the reimbursement for those meals. And this year, due to a number of factors, including state funding and also funding at a federal level, and the unknown of what happens or what is going to happen with the current administration, of are there going to be additional cuts? Are there going to be grants that are reduced or eliminated? All of that has led to us not being able to be reimbursed for additional home delivered meals currently. Congregate meals we're still funded at. I'm projecting right now that we'll be a little short of state funding. Pardon me, sorry, I've got a frog in my throat today. But state funding will probably end up with maybe 1,000 meals or so unfunded. But we have reached our capacity for our home delivered. So for the next 3 months, which is the rest of our fiscal year, we just started Q4, we will have no reimbursement from the state for any of our home delivered meals. And so because of that, we have paused our drive-through. So we no longer are offering drive-through until October or until we get more funding. And all Meals on Wheels new members are being put on a wait list. And that wait list will continue to be maintained, again, until we either get more funding or until October 1st, which would be basically when we get more funding. And the reason why is because if we ended Meals on Wheels today, we are still upside down, so to speak, in the number of meals served that are being reimbursed. And so people say, well, if you can't afford to have what you have now, why are you looking at building a new building? And that's a fair question to ask. As many things in government, however, it's the more you use, the more you get in the future. And we have shown that we have had tremendous growth. The state has been generous with us, and really what this is a case of is really my inability to guess good enough. I guessed, I think, a 7% increase in the number of meals we were going to be serving. We've exceeded that. In fact, we're at double-digit growth in our home-delivered meals. So we grew too fast. We still want that growth because the state will see, oh, well, they delivered X amount of meals more than they thought. And so that state funding next year will be based on the meals this year. So the intent is, yes, there would be more money next year, but they don't have anything to backfill this year. On the congregate meals, because that's the easiest ones that we have, the congregate meals, we've grown 7% over last year. So fiscal year. So fiscal 24 compared to fiscal 25, we grew 7%. And that's people coming into the senior center. That's a large growth. And so that change in where we are is what we've looked at. I think I projected through the state a 6% growth for congregate. Home delivered, though, again, just grew exponential, way more than we thought. That doesn't mean, though, that we're not still providing the meals. Again, as I mentioned earlier, we have a very responsible board currently. We have had in the past responsible boards, and we have a little bit of a fund balance that can pay for these other meals. It's about $57,000. It's not a lot of money for some folks, but it could be enough that it's not sustainable for us. If we don't find a way to resolve that, yeah, that could be an issue. But I choose to be optimistic. I choose to be positive, and I choose to see that not growing is not going to solve our problem. Staying stagnant is not going to help us. Our aging population is aging. We are seeing, even if there are no, because people have said, well, we're at the end of the gray wave. You know, the folks that were our baby boomers, we're starting to see the tail end of them being old enough to join. And statistically, absolutely, they are correct. What they're not seeing, though, is that the folks that have been coming to the senior center are coming more regularly, and the new members are coming more regularly. So we're seeing that they're living longer, they're utilizing the services more often, and the folks that are coming in are also using it more often. So we want to continue that growth, and we need to be able to see into the future what that means for us. And that's how I see it. I need to rerun numbers for this current fiscal year. 2 years ago, we were serving just over 15% of seniors that are eligible, quote unquote, for the senior center. 85% of seniors we're not even seeing. So if even 5% of those people come in, that's enough growth to last us for another decade.
So, and Matt knows well, as probably anybody listening to this program, Elko County residents are not those who shrink in the face of adversity. Certainly, as you talked about, they would not want to see people not served. And we also need to mention that people need to apply for these services, Matt, because a lot of emphasis is placed right now when it comes to state or federal resources or even local dollars on waste, fraud, and abuse.
Absolutely. And the application is free. It's not onerous. They come in, they visit with us, they give us a little bit of information. It's self-declared as to income level, and that's a self-declaration. We don't get into that. The state uses that for demographics. At the federal level, though, it doesn't matter how much money one makes. The federal level the federal government has placed an emphasis on taking care of our elderly. The Older Americans Act of 1967, so we're now looking at a almost 60-year-old piece of legislation, decided that one of the priorities of the United States of America is taking care of our elderly. It doesn't say taking care of our elderly only if they're below the poverty level. There are certain things that, yes, you have to be under the poverty level. Our pantry, for example, right now, that's one of the things. But to receive a meal at the senior center, you don't have to have a certain threshold. And there is an application so that we can reduce fraud. The information that we use for meals as they come in goes into a statewide database, and the state looks at, is this person, which is a unique identifier, did they receive a meal in Elko and a meal in Carlin? If so, we need to resolve that. So they have that ability, and it catches those things, and it says, hey, we have a potential issue here. So we are measuring against fraud. We want to be responsible and respectful of the citizens' money, because that's really what it is. The money that comes from the federal government through the state is our money as taxpayers, and so we want to be respectful and responsible for that as well.
Our Elko Senior Center serving a senior population, those who are 60 or better, and certainly it is open to people who are under 60. I often, when I'm there, I'll see lots of friends and family, and they are paying, I guess it would be a premium price for those meals. They're contributing to the cost for those who can't afford the meal, because now, just as you suggested on our last program, the cost of a senior meal for those who are 60 or better is how much you can afford and when you can pay. And basically it's always been a suggested $3 donation, but we know sometimes seniors are not able to pay, but they still should eat.
Absolutely. We do want people to eat because, well, that's healthy. Eating is healthy. Imagine that.
Yes, because we see what happens when people don't eat and they're lonely and they're home alone and they decline, or there might be underlying illness or disease. I mean, the senior center also serves really as this gathering place to kind of check in on one another. I see a lot of that too with what you describe as socialization.
Yes, and we have activities throughout the day. It's kind of funny. I have a stack of old newspapers that I have collected, and I was going through them just yesterday, and I found one from 2017 that featured Carrie Aguera, a previous director at the center. And I read through the article. It was a Q&A on the senior center, and she said, we now have activities every day, morning and afternoon. And she and her staff and again, other directors and boards of directors have set that up so that we can continue that. But yeah, if a senior is looking for something to do, we have something to do. Bridge or dominoes or mahjong or exercise or sewing or taking off pounds sensibly, square dancing, art. We have so many different things, and it is important for socialization. It's not just about eating healthy food. It's also about having a healthy mind, a healthy spirit.
Sometimes the older we get, you look around and notice that you don't have the friends that you used to have. A lot of seniors, they're missing their friends, or maybe family have moved away, but this is an opportunity, again, to make new friends and to think about that legacy that was created for us in our community, and to, again, just to socialize. You guys, you had a wonderful variety show just a couple weeks ago, and I got to go to that. That was really fun, Matt, and that's was provided by a senior member of the center.
It was,
yes. So, see, it's a perfect example. I mean, it really is. So with all these things, we do want to remind that there are some significant fundraisers. They're not enough for the $1 million land acquisition, but they are important. Fundraising, bingo, and the Christmas Bazaar. Those are great ways to contribute.
They are, absolutely. I'm going to start with Christmas Bazaar. We do have almost a full slate of vendors, but really from the community, if you come and support the Christmas Bazaar, then our vendors see that and our vendors stay. Vendors want to be able to sell to people, and you can only sell to people for our Christmas Bazaar if you attend. So please do attend the Christmas Bazaar in December. And bingo, we generally have bingo twice a month. Last month in Spring Creek, we did have to cancel it, unfortunately. But bingo in Elko is tomorrow night. It's typically the second Thursday. In Spring Creek, it's the third Wednesday. But we have bingo tomorrow night. So we hope that the community will come out and visit us and come over to the Senior Center. Doors open at 5. Game starts at 5:30. And it's a cash bingo. So if you want to win some cash, come on out. And to your point, Lori, it is a small fundraiser, but every little bit helps, because the more that we can get operational offsets, then the more we're in a better position to be able to look at our investments and say, okay, the board can make this decision of operationally we're sound and secure. Maybe we can divert some of this to our exciting land purchase.
Matt, thanks so much for all the great news today. That'll be a chance, if you attend bingo, to check out the current Senior Center, to meet some new folks, find out about Senior Olympic Games, which are also coming right up. So it's not too late to register for those. Not
too late at all for that. We are happy to help with that. And again, I want folks to know we are not abandoning the current Senior Center this year or next year or anytime really soon. We have lots of planning to do, lots of fundraising to do. So please come up and see what we have to offer to you as a senior, or to your family or loved ones, but even to the rest of the community. You don't have to be 60 to walk through our doors, and we encourage everybody to come in.
Thanks, Matt. Matt McCarty is Executive Director of our Senior Center at 1795 Ruby View Drive, 775-738-3030. Visit elkoseniors.org, but most of all, visit the Senior Center in person. Meals are served weekdays starting at 11:30 a.m. Thanks again, Matt.
Thanks as always, Miss Lori.